Welcome to this week's Chinuch Hashkofa message for Parshas Korach. And this week I want to share with you an interesting insight coming out of a Rashi, also connected to what the Kli Yakar comments on the Rashi, which can be a basis of a very, very important discussion. Of course, one of the mindsets and one of the Chinuch ideas we want to try and instill in our children is foundations that lead to good practice bein Adam lachaveroi, not only bein Adam lamoker. As we know, Avas Yisrael, treating others respectfully, is a foundation of Torah. As Rabbi Akiva says, Zeh klal godel b'Torah. And it's not just the actions, meaning it's not just that we want children to act nicely to other people. We want them to have the yisoidus, the foundations of what it is to treat other people properly, the foundations and the mindset, the hashkafa that is behind treating other people the way they should be treated and not being unkind to those that are around us. And there's a fascinating little detail in this week's parsha, not in the famous story of Korach and Moshe Rabbeinu, but later on, as a hemshach, as a continuation to the whole story of Korach, we have the parsha which deals with the matnois kahuna, with the gifts that were given to the Kohanim. And there's a pasuk which says that Hashem spoke to Aaron and he said, Va'ani hinei nosati lecha. Behold, I am giving to you, and it goes out to outline all the different gifts, all the different things that the Kohanim are going to receive. And Rashi comments on the word hinei. Hinei nosati lecha. Behold, I am going to give you. And Rashi says that we know that hine, the word hine, is a lashon simcha. It's an expression of joy. Hine, behold, you say hine when there's a kind of joy connected to it. And Rashi brings an example and he says, we find this lashon, we find this expression by Aaron HaKohen himself. When Moshe Rabbeinu at the sneh, at the burning bush, was told by Hashem that he has to go and become the leader of the Jewish people, and one of the reasons he resisted is because he had an older brother, Aaron, who later became Aaron HaKohen. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu not to worry, because when you go back to Mitzrayim, Aaron will come to meet you. And it says, in Rashi quotes, it says, Hinei hu yoytze likrasecha. Behold, he's coming to meet you, v'ro'acha, and he's going to see you, v'somach beliboy, and he's going to be happy. Not only that he's not going to mind that you're the leader of the Jewish people, he's going to be happy in his heart for you that you've assumed this position, that you've gotten this privilege, this schus of leading Klal Yisrael. And the Kli Yakar further develops it. It's a Kli Yakar on an earlier pasuk, and he says that the two things are connected. That because Aaron HaKohen, Hine, he went out to meet Moshe Rabbeinu with joy, and he was happy for Moshe Rabbeinu, for what he achieved. That's why Hashem gave him the matnois kahuna. Hashem gave him the presents given to Kohanim besimcha, with joy, and Hashem said, Hinei nasati lecha. Behold, with simcha, I am giving this to you. Beautiful idea. And of course, it goes to the heart of relationships with other people, and this is so important to instill and to discuss with children at a very young age. This concept of what we call in Yiddish Farggin. Farggin means not just to be kind to other people, not just to treat people nicely, but to be happy for them, to make room for them, to be happy for someone else's success. These are points of discussion to have with children. What happens if the Rebbe, the teacher, picks someone else to do something important in the class? You could be a little bit jealous, but we have to work on being happy for the success of other people, not just tolerating it, but being happy for it. Someone else is chosen to be leader, someone else is chosen to be the captain on a team, someone else is chosen to do something, someone else did better than you on a test, someone else was more successful to you in one thing, because everyone has their areas they can be matzliachim. Are you happy for them? Or do you undermine them? Do you go and say, oh, because they did this, and they're the teacher's favorite, and because their parents are important people? No, not only to not do that, but to be happy, to fargin, to make room, to in your heart develop this idea of actually being happy for someone else, going to congratulating, saying mazel tov, shkoyach to the other child. I'm happy that you were able to achieve that. Of course, part of that discussion needs to take place. What are the yisodas? What are the foundations behind that? The foundations of Hashgacha Pratis, that everything happens is by Hashem's providence. the concept of humility, the concept of the fact that someone else has succeeded doesn't put me down, it doesn't make me a worse person. I have my strengths, I have my mission, I have my things that the Eibishter gave me that I have to excel in, that I have to nurture, that I have to succeed in. The concept of not being a Balgaiva. Balgaiva means not being able to make room for another person. Always protecting ourselves because we're so insecure. Forgetting, of course, that Hashem made us all. We all share the same neshama, we all share the same connection. And there's plenty of room for all of us. We can be happy with someone else's success and yet still have room for ourselves. That's not a steer, it's not a contradiction at all. So all these things are part of this discussion based on this beautiful vart, on this parsha. That Hashem gave the matnos kahuna to Aaron with simcha because he was happy for Moshe Rabbeinu. That Moshe Rabbeinu became the leader of Klal Yisrael. And of course, as parents, we need to reflect when we discuss this with children. How are we doing in this regard? How are we doing when someone else is more successful in business than we are? When someone else gets a position that we wanted to get? Do we really believe it's Hashgacha Pratis and it was meant to be, and therefore the other person is meant to have that success to the point that we can start feeling happy, or do we undermine them? Do we speak Lashon Hara about them? Maybe even Chas v'Shalom at the Shabbos table? Do we put them down? Do we undermine them? Or are we trying to develop this feeling, it's not easy, of understanding that we cannot be jealous because if it was given to that person, it was given to him or to her, it's meant to be and it's their success and it's their schus, and therefore we cannot be jealous. We're not supposed to be jealous. Adrabah, we're supposed to try and be misameach, try to participate in other person's simcha. If we're waiting for particular brachas, these are sometimes very hard and very difficult tests. Sometimes parents can be waiting to have children, people are waiting for shidduchim, and it happens to the other family, happens to the neighbor. Perhaps one of the greatest kalim, the vessels for bracha, is to be happy for the other person, even though it's painful, even though it's hard. But to be able to celebrate in someone else's simcha, perhaps that also, we know, brings simcha and bracha for ourselves. So we need to, as we discuss this with our children, it's such an important yisod, because it goes to the heart of an adam l'chaveira, but it also goes to the heart of hashkafa in emunah, really believing that if it happened to that person, it was supposed to happen. And Avas Yisrael, Klal Gadol B'Torah, and everything's b'Hashgacha Pratis, and so on and so forth. So as we have this discussion with our children, it's a good time to make a cheshbon hanefesh, to reflect how we're doing in that midah as well, and Mirz Hashem to try and grow a little bit in that direction, bringing, of course, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's bracha for other people and for ourselves. Have a wonderful day and a good Shabbos.